ago when the perimeter of the landfill was determined to be here, why? And by modifying the footprint by breadth and also by depth going higher, just within that tweak, we were able to add 70 years. And so we are constantly looking at how can we question what we know to be true to get as much out of that resource as possible. I would also quickly mention that on the back of that handout, there's a statewide map that represents the different services that we are providing across the state. That's been a really important conversation from a legislative perspective. It's an opportunity to bring down the barriers of, rural and urban, but waste is a statewide issue. And when the facilities across the state, whether we are responsible for them or not, do well, that is a benefit to our community because, as we know, oftentimes we're considered the backup plan for a lot of people if they're going to get out of the waste business. And so we consider ourselves a leader in the state in empowering those facilities to do what they need to do to make sure that their community is handling their own garbage. And we're there to help and assist in any way. But really, we want the resource that resides within Polk County to be set aside for the residents and communities of Polk County. To mention, to Andy's comment earlier, at the last board meeting, we recognized 2 staff members, but probably could have easily recognized more. Definitely a testament to our commitment to training and safety and our safety manager. But we had just recently done a CPR training program, and that's kind of an ongoing rolling basis that we have. But one of our newer employees, who has actually only worked for us at that time for about 3.5 months, unfortunately came upon an individual who was in the small vehicle area where, any mom and pop resident person, anybody can really access that area if you have a couch or anything that you might have to get rid of. Unfortunately, this gentleman was getting ready to unload the items in his trailer into the roll-off, and he had a cardiac event. He was not seen for a period of time. Once it came to once our staff became aware that that event had taken place, one of the individuals had actually just gone through CPR training the week before. He administered, mouth to mouth CPR and just acted in a very courageous manner. I should go ahead and leave to say the story doesn't end the way that we wish it would have. Unfortunately, the gentleman passed away. But I think, the way that people conducted themselves in that process still deserves to be highlighted, that he did exactly what he was trained to do. You never really quite know how you're going to show up in a crisis like that. And unfortunately, when we reviewed footage, there were a lot of customers in his vicinity that didn't take action. And so I think if there's a lesson to be told, it's, we often go into CPR trainings and others, and we think, oh, this is never going to apply to me. But the more people that can feel comfortable or as comfortable as possible, because you never know when you're going to be at a gas station or a landfill and need those services, or others around you might. And so, so not only did the gentleman who administered CPR do just a wonderful job, but his supervisor knew right where the AED machine was, deployed that immediately, called up to the scale house that dispatched emergency services to get on site. And then unfortunately, like I said, the gentleman passed away, and our staff had reached out to make arrangements to have the trailer delivered so that the family wouldn't have to return to the facility. The supervisor that was there on site helping the patron, the wife was there, and she had a lot of questions, and the way that he handled those questions with just the right amount of answers that would give you some conclusion, some peace of mind, some closure, he was able to provide to her without going into extensive details. Not a brief story, but yeah, one that we're absolutely very proud of, and can't really sing the praises of training enough and what we learned with that. Anything else? Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you all. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, item 6 on the agenda are proclamations. For this meeting, we have the National Police Week, May 10th to 16th, 2026. Emergency Medical Services week after that, May 17th to 23rd. And Public Works Week is May 17th to 23rd as well. So those will be posted on social media. Pay attention. Item 7 is consent agenda. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda? Okay. Who said that? Okay, so motion by Brown, seconded by Minneke. Caitlin, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8 is old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is a public hearing regarding a zoning amendment to the Farms of Holland planned unit development to add car wash as an allowed use in land use parcel 3. The applicant has requested to table this consideration. And so we'll move the public hearing. Well, we won't move the public hearing. We're going to continue the public hearing on May 21st, 2026. So item 8B is public hearing regarding a proposal to amend property on 50th Avenue at parcel number 64025110461 from R1 single family residential to AR agricultural reserve. We'll open up the public hearing at 6:42 p.m. So this is a property that was under an annexation agreement. They sold some of the land, which ended the agreement, but this parcel has not changed hands. The owner would like to now build a horse barn on the property, so the zoning, they're requesting that the zoning change back to agricultural reserve for them to be able to build. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. This property was zoned to R1 at the time when some of the surrounding property was sold to a development group. And so it was kind of all requested to be R1 at that point in time. Since then, there's not been any desire to develop it residentially. As the mayor mentioned, the current property owner still owns it, and they would now like to build some additional agricultural horse-related structures on the property. So that necessitates a zoning back to ag.
Caitlin, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
No.
Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:43 p.m. Item 8C is first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning that parcel from R160 single family residential to AR agricultural reserve. So we just had a public hearing on this item. Luke, you got anything to add?
Nothing else?
Any discussion from council?
Motion. Second.
Okay, motion by Borjon, seconded by Minneke to approve first reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Campbell, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Brown, Minneke.
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Borjon.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8D is a public hearing regarding a zoning amendment to chapter 175A.21 regarding exceptions to yard requirements. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:44 p.m. So this item has to do with property in residential zoning that really isn't residential. This particular instance involves the Main Street School and the need for them to put in a fire escape, but putting that in goes into the setbacks. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. So essentially, the residential districts have a group of non-residential uses that we allow in them, schools being the primary one of those. And then we enumerate different setbacks than for a house, right? So the side setbacks for a school would be 50 feet. The Main Street School bought the property north of them at 933 Main Street. As working through the process of changing that residential structure into a school, our code review said you need to have a fire escape. That fire escape has to be permitted. We have to run it against setbacks, and we determined that they can't put a fire escape on it because they have to be 50 feet away from the property line. In fact, how this property is laid out, both side setbacks overlap, so there's really no way to ever add anything to it. So this code request is a reaction to that scenario. We are essentially adding some language to our exceptions to yard requirements. We typically say that no steps, decks, or patios can be in a side yard setback. And then we're adding a statement that says, except for non-residential uses in the R district, which may have those things within the setback, provided they maintain a minimum 10-foot setback. So going to still have the 50-foot for a structure, but those types of things can go within 10 feet of a lot line.
Galen, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
No.
Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:46 PM. Item 8E is a first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning ordinance of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by amending chapter 175A.21 regarding exceptions to yard requirements. So we just had a public hearing on this item. Luke, anything to add?
Nothing else?
Anything from council? I get a motion to approve first reading?
Motion.
Second. Motion by Porter, seconded by Borjon. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kelsey or Kalen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. We're gonna go back to item 8A. I never opened the public hearing. So we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for 8A at 6:47 PM. As I said, the applicant had asked to table this item, so we're gonna leave the hearing open and continue it at our next meeting. Good. Yes. All right. Gotta go with what the lawyer says, you know? All right. Item 8F is a public hearing regarding a proposal to amend the Norwalk future land use plan in the vicinity of Highway R63 and Dubuque Street, the site of the recorded Rosewood North Plat. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:47 PM. This item involves an area south and east of our city limits, but that is within our 2-mile halo. The city's comprehensive plan envisions medium and high density residential along with some commercial and industrial flex space in that area. The developer would like that change to low density residential within our comprehensive plan. It should be noted that there is an existing plat of the area from the late 70s that the existing plat reflects low density residential. Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. So bear with me. This one's a weird one. We have a request from a property developer and owner for this area, kind of circled on our land use plan. It's south of the North River along R63, which is Southwest 9th, leading into Des Moines. Our land use plan that we developed in 2022 called out some higher intensity uses in that area, particularly a commercial industrial flex and some medium density residential. We also kind of had a very high level thought of what Delaware Street might look like going east. That is that dashed red line. And it does go through the middle of this ground. When we did our land use plan, we were not aware of a existing subdivision that had been approved. I have since gone back and looked through all of our land use area, and there is no other situation like this within our space. I would bet that there's not many situations like this that exist across the state. It's really a unique thing. So made some of these decisions without that knowledge when we were doing our land use planning. On the road front, just to note that like we're very high level road planning in these maps. You see a large section of that does run through a floodplain. That's a huge consideration. So these alignments aren't set in stone. I believe we're looking at studying that alignment in a future fiscal year to kind of determine what that might look like. So that's our land use plan. We received a request from the property owner, was looking to sell this from an estate, looking to move on to some land that the estate owns. Our initial request from it was, can this be built? Really the 1979 plat, I think it was on the previous page there. Talked with our city attorney, kind of reviewed it ourselves. We felt like that's a valid plat that could be built, and kind of said, well, that's not what we planned, but that's what exists out there. Directed them to work with the county to go ahead and proceed with what had been recorded 40 plus years ago. In working with the county, the developer was requested to make changes to meet the current county standard for things. When those changes were requested and when something changes from this map that's on the screen, we're now within 2 miles of Norwalk. We have authority to review that new subdivision and have to make sure that it conforms with what the city wants. So then we're at a conflict point, right? Our plan's saying we're going to have a big road through there. We're going to have this industrial ground. We're going to have a lot of stuff on this Southwest 9th R63 corridor. But for this previous residential plat that exists and the developers request to build a arguably better plat. This thing was obviously done 40 years ago before we thought about a lot of things like floodplains and good road access points to R63 and that stuff. So the request before you today would be to change the land use plan to a low density to allow for a subdivision to continue. We would review that per our subdivision standards if it was approved, and make sure that it meets our subdivision standards. We did take this to P and Z at their last meeting, and it was recommended for approval.
Galen, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
No.
Okay, any public comment? Hearing none, we'll close public hearing at 6:52 PM. So 8G is a resolution amending the comprehensive plan of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by changing the future land use classification in the vicinity of Highway R63 and Dubuque Street, the site of the recorded Rosewood North Plat from medium density residential and commercial industrial flex to low density residential. So we just had a public hearing on this time. Luke, got anything to add?
Nothing else?
All right, yeah, comments, discussion, questions from council? Both. Okay, so motion by Meineke to approve resolution, seconded by Porter. Any further discussion? Orgeron, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Caitlin, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Porter,
Yes.
Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8H is public hearing regarding the 2026 street patching project. We'll open up public hearing at 6:53 PM. The patching project is for Orchard Hills Drive from North Avenue to Wright Road and for Wright Road from Orchard Hills Drive to Sunset. Wayne, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. We're also gonna have some patching performed at East 27th and North Avenue, and we're gonna have a little sidewalk installation at the northeast corner of Wright Road and Orchard Hills Drive. Scope expanded outside of just patching like we generally typically do. We do a project, 1 or 2 projects a year, patch projects. This one, the scope expanded a little bit just for some needs we need to get completed. We received, getting ahead to the next items, we did receive 10 bids on this, which is probably the most I think I've ever received for a project. And the bids were favorable, some below the estimate, some above, but the low bidder was a company out of Clive. It's one we're not real familiar with or familiar with at all. We did some research and they had positive feedback. I will say we'll probably incur some additional engineering costs because when we have a bidder or a contractor we're not familiar with, we usually require or request more engineering and more inspection on site to make sure things are going the way we'd like. So you may see additional engineering bill come in. That's going to be at our request. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just we're more comfortable with having more inspection during this project.
Wayne, when you look across 10 bids, like close, not close, like what's the deviation? Like, that's interesting to me.
Yeah, the estimate was 536, low was 425, and there was a few of them around in the 400s. The high one was 700 maybe. The higher bidder was one that we typically see come in a little higher. The 2 low ones are ones we're not familiar with. Interestingly enough, I looked up West Des Moines bid 2 patching projects recently, and both their low bidders are ones we've never heard of either. So new players entering the market, it's good, it's good for prices. It's a little concerning you don't have a history with them. So again, we'll require more inspection on it.
Wayne, I appreciate you making the point about the additional engineering expenses. I think we had enough experience with low bidders, which is great to see the low price, but understanding that sometimes those engineering costs go up. Thank you.
You bet.
So like this, maybe the first time I've heard that, like maybe seen something like this. Is there one that we're familiar with that we would not have that then offsets the cost enough that we're comfortable that we wouldn't have that, or just kind of interested in your perspective on that?
Yeah, like I said, the bottom two we're not familiar with. The rest of the bidders we've heard from, and they've done work here in town. Cedar Falls Construction, I think, was third lowest. They did our annual patching project 2 years ago. Like I said, we reached out, I think it was Clive that was familiar with them, but it's mostly residential and commercial work, so I think they're new to the municipal.
So when you think about like the extra engineering costs and what that we would our burden, does it make it then that they're the same or not?
No, I don't think it would, I think it's still worthy of going with the low bid.
Galen, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
No.
Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:57 PM. Item 8I. It's a resolution approving plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the 2026 street patching project. So we just had a public hearing for this project. And this is first of 3 resolutions needed to get the project launched. On April the 16th, council passed a resolution that approved the preliminary plan specs, form of contract, and estimate for this new project. This resolution is the final approval for all of those. Wayne, do you got anything?
Yeah, I want to add one thing. I mentioned the intersection of East 27th and North Avenue. That's out by the Public Works facility. It's in terrible condition. We're not going to close it down, but we're going to have it closed down to be 1 lane at a time with temporary traffic control. They're going to do it when school's out. It'll be done this summer. It'll be a headache for people who may get complaints. The alternative is shutting it down with a significant detour. So this is a better way to go. Just keep in mind when people are delayed. It's frustrating. You may hear complaints.
It'll be nice when it's done, though.
Yes, sir.
I feel like we can't really shut that down though, right? Like it'd be too far to detour, right? Right.
It'd be significant, yep.
All right, any discussion from the council? I get a motion to approve resolution as presented.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Brown, seconded by Borjan. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kayla, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Borja,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8J is resolution awarding contract for the 2026 street patching projects. This is the second of 3 resolutions needed to start the project. This resolution awards the contract to Modern Concrete Incorporated, or ModCon, for $424,846.80. Wayne, anything to add?
Nothing else.
Any discussion or question, council? I'll make a motion.
Motion.
How about a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to Brent. Motion by Brown, seconded by Porter. Any further discussion? Kalen, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Borja.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8K is a resolution approving contract and bond for the 2026 street patching project. So this is the third and final resolution to get the project going. This resolution approves the contract and indicates how the city is going to pay ModCon for their work. Wayne, anything to add?
Nothing else.
Any questions, discussion, council? I get a motion to approve that resolution
Motion.
and a second.
Second.
Okay, motion by Brown, seconded by Minneke. Kayla, would you call roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Borja,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. ModCon is really it pumps me up.
All right. Good deal. Good to hear.
That could be worth noting.
Excited. All right, motion carries. Item 8L is a resolution approving the amended site plan of Titan Storage. It looks like they want to put up an 8-foot fence, which is allowed with council approval. Luke?
Yep. So in addition to the fence, which is a kind of specific council issue that you guys can allow in the manufacturing M1 district, this also is the second phase of the Titan storage off of Madison Street. The existing phase is very much a traditional self-storage self-storage unit complex. This one's going to have a little bit larger buildings with some roll-up doors and everything for just a different storage market, right? So no issues with that. It's an allowed use as part of the warehousing storage that we allow in the M1 district. So it'll just look a little different. It's different from their original plan, which showed it all as kind of the self mini storage type uses. So yeah, with that, I'll happy to take any questions.
Any public comment? I get a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Minneke, seconded by Borjon. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kalen, would you please call a roll?
Councilmember Porter? Yes. Borjon?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Minneke?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8M is resolution approving the preliminary plat and site plan for Dunn Property Plat 3. This is property along Delaware and just south of Michael Foods. Luke, I'll let you take this one from here.
Yep. So this is west of the existing Dunn Industrial kind of multi-tenant buildings off of Delaware and Madison Street. This will be another similar multi-tenant use building with associated parking and drives. The prelim plat side of it does identify 2 additional outlots. Outlot X is where the stormwater detention for the site would occur, and then Outlot Y is a future development site, and they've got some ghosted future buildings on there. But as an outlot, we would expect future platting site plan work to come through for that at a time in the future. So the building itself is a pretty standard industrial multi-tenant building. We've got some general elevations there at the end of the packet. You can get an idea of what it looks like. I would note on the parking side of it, these buildings, and especially the uses we've seen down on Madison Street, can really vary from what we would traditionally think to be industrial. So they are providing 41 parking stalls with another 42 to 45 identified that could be added. We don't have a use identified for this. It's a empty multi-tenant building. So on the low end, you could have 200 parking stalls required for a warehouse. On the high end, you could have 400 if the whole thing turned into an assembly hall, right? So as we get uses that come in there, we may be bringing parking waivers to you or parking requests based on what those required amounts would be and also what's already in that space. So that's something that would come forward in the future. We do also have a request of a waiver for some open space requirement just in anticipation of that future parking construction. So those 42 to 45 stalls would kind of eat into that at some point in the future.
Look, I have a question.
Yeah.
Let's say it gets built and it's a use and it doesn't require any more parking.
Mhm.
But then for some reason it goes out of business and something else goes in there that does require more parking.
Right.
Like, talk me through that scenario. How does that work then?
Yeah. So that type of change would be drastic enough that there'd be some building permit requirement that we'd have, which is where we would then look at that occupancy request. And then we could do some discussions on what that could be. In other scenarios, there's a couple athletic uses on the east side of the road where we were able to work with them. They said, look, we have batting cages is one of them. They're like, our code would say you could technically in this clear span space have like 200 people, right? But they say, look, we're 8 batting cages. We're not going to have 200 people there. So we were able to work with them. Okay, how many people do you think you're going to have there? How are you going to limit your occupancy at any time in that? And then that number can kind of fit with what the parking was there. So that's kind of the methodology we've used in those scenarios going forward. But at some point, if someone did request that change and we felt like, no, we can't accommodate that, we'd have to decide, do we want to give that waiver and have that use there? Or do we want to make them find more parking? Or if they can't find more parking, then maybe that just doesn't happen there.
So
So-
in this example, if my scenario played out and it went fine, now they required more, we could not issue a occupancy permit and say you have to have, you have to pour more concrete and have spaces.
Right,
Or you make it
yep,
occupied.
yep, we could require them to meet our parking requirement code as part of that new use.
More for just thinking forward for me to
No, it's a good
understand
question.
that, right? But.
Right.
yeah.
It's a tricky thing and it's not some, we've talked about it a lot in this industrial area right now, but everywhere that we have a multi-tenant retail structure, right? They could all be completely underparked if every space turned into a restaurant, right? Or they could all be massively overparked if everybody was just office. So at some point you just kind of live with what it is. And the narrative becomes more like, do we want that thing in the community, right? Do we want another restaurant there or do we want this? So there's a give and take to a lot of that.
I don't have concerns with this. I just want to understand it for future, like how that actually works. So.
Yep.
thank you.
I think you'd see it come back for the council too, because the council under our code has the discretion.
Yes.
To waive the normal parking requirements. So if there
Or
was.
approve the site plan for the
future
active
use that came that
parking.
really violated the previous parking waiver agreement, the council at that point in time could either say, it's okay, we'll waive it again, or they could say, no, we're not going to.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Hey, Luke,
Yes.
can you discuss sanitary sewer on this? Is
This one sewers to Delaware Street
okay.
in our Delaware sewer. So
Okay,
it's not
but it uses
reliant
sewer
on
district.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not reliant on the North River sewer trunk that we're extending.
Okay.
Yep.
Any public comment? I get a motion to approve the resolution. Motion. Which one was that? Andy?
We sound the same.
You are sounding the same tonight. Sorry. Then who's over?
I hope my voice was a little more feminine.
That's an easy, it's an easy call to the left.
In my head, I was trying to figure out which one was going there with a second, so. Okay, so. No, please don't.
Smell.
Motion by Borjon, seconded by Porter. Any further discussion? Caitlin, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Borjon,
Yes.
Brown. Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes.
All right. That motion carries. Item 8N is a resolution approving the final plat of Dunn Property Plat 3. So since the infrastructure is all built, we can now approve the final plat of the prelim plat that we just passed. Luke, I'll let you take.
Yep. So this area has not been platted. So these lots that we discussed in that prelim plat don't exist right now. Because there's not public infrastructure related with doing this plat, we can go ahead and move forward with the final plat to create the lots. That'll let them do the site plan and start building, pull a building permit.
Any discussion from council or public input?
Motion. Motion. Or second.
Okay. Motion by Brown, seconded by Minneke. You are trying to confuse me.
I'm using myself.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Caitlin, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Borjon.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8O is a resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement providing for the sale and issuance of general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2026A, and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same. So Gene, I'm just going to let you take this one.
Thank you, Mayor. The city received bids for the purchase of 6.54 million in GEO corporate purpose bonds at 10 o'clock this morning. The funds will be used for ADA sidewalk improvements, $250,000, 2 plow trucks for Public Works, $550,000, and $5.6 million for the North River Sewer Trunk Main. The city received 5 bids from 35 different banks. So there were 4 individual banks and then 31 that were in a syndicate together and bid as one. The true cost, interest cost received range from 3.5417% to 3.7256%. Only 0.026% separated the winning bid from the second bid. The winning bid, and I put the bids in on your desks in front of you earlier today, so you should have those in front of you. The winning bid was received from R. Silas and Company LLC. They're out of Summit, New Jersey. This is the first time that R. Silas and Company has bid on their own and won the city's bonds. Historically, they have also bid in that syndicate with Robert W. Baird. The purchase price was 6.9454 million. True interest cost 3.5417%. Net interest cost 1.892 million. Just for reference, the true interest cost on our last bond sale in 2024 was 3.6%. So we actually did a little bit better today. S&P Global affirmed the city's AA credit rating, so really good there. DA Davidson did not bid today. Just thought I'd mention that. They have talked to several council members about doing private placement. They did not bid today. And just to kind of give you a little reference, DA Davidson has talked about a $5 bond fee. That's 5,000 or $5 per thousand bond fee. The winning bidder today was $650 per thousand. So how $650 per thousand is $42,510. $5 per thousand is $32,700. The difference is about $9,800. If they would have bid with the syndicate as they normally do, or bid that on their own, it's a 0.0967% difference. And the difference is $34,000. So if you take that 9,800, it's 24,200 would be the difference, 24,200. The Franke point would have been if they would have been simply 3 basis points above. Just kind of give you a little information there. I did talk to Suzanne from PFM. They are planning to come down and do a work session when we're ready for them. They'd be more than happy to provide more information on private versus the public bidding. Tonight's motion is to approve the loan agreement with R. Silas and Company and the issuance of $6,540,000 in GO bonds. And then another item, if we could add, we were offered a premium of $457,000. Staff is recommending accepting that and placing those funds in the North River sewer main fund. We are about $215,000 short due to some environmental and easement costs. And then we recommend the remaining just stay in that fund for phase 2. As we know, Project West, we have several projects coming up. So if that could be part of the motion as well, staff would recommend that.
So that needs to be added to this resolution, item O.
It should either be added or just maybe a second motion.
Verify.
Yeah, you may have to restate that just to make sure that we have it worded properly.
Okay. So the motion, obviously, and to accept the premium of $457,160. And those funds be placed in the North River Sewer Main Project Fund.
You can add that. Look to the resolution.
It's very common that we get a premium offer.
Yeah.
So, our coupon, if you look on those bids, the coupon prices are 5% and 4%. Market rate's probably about 3.5% right now. Investors look at that and say, hey, I'm willing to pay a little bit more up front because over the long term, I'm going to be guaranteed that 4% and 5%. And it's very common. We've done this in the past and accepted it the same night.
Definitely a big positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
The premium is listed in section 7 of the resolution. But it does not specify where we're going to put the funds. Do you want it to?
I would, yes, please.
Got it.
So it's already in the resolution.
With
The dollar amount.
With the amendment of where to place the money.
Okay. That was section 7.
Correct.
So can I get a motion to amend section 7 to add language to direct those funds to the,
North River Sewer Project Fund.
Motion.
second.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Brown, seconded by Minneke to amend section 7 of the resolution to direct the funds to the North River Sewer Project.
Yes. Thank you.
Caitlin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Porter, yes.
All right, amendment passes. So any other discussion from council on this? Or public comment? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the resolution as amended?
Motion.
Second. Okay, so motion by Brown, seconded by Minneke. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Caitlin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Porter, yes. Borjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yeah.
All right, motion carries. Item 8P. It's first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 177 rates and fees of the Norwalk Code for providing for amended building permit valuation fee. So it looks like we need to adjust a multiplier in the code, so we're charging up-to-date rates. Luke, what do you got?
Yep. So first, the building permit fee, when we charge a building permit, we collect like 8 different fees. So we're talking about one of those fees, and that fee is what we call the permit fee or the valuation fee. That's the bulk of the charge at time of building permit that pays for the inspection staff and pays for our people to go do that work. I mentioned during our budget review that after we got our budget finalized, we had our full department budget expenses identified for the coming fiscal year, that I wanted to come back and kind of utilize that information to get us up to date with how these calculations work. In the past, when we adopted all of our building code stuff and everything, we utilized the 2012 valuation data table. So it's pretty old now at this point. You use that data table to create a value for the building, and then there's a permit multiplier that gets applied to that value that determines the cost, right? We, over the years, I think once or twice, have adjusted that fee multiplier to bring our permit cost in line with other communities, but we've always used that 2012 data. As we've gotten farther and farther away from 2012, that just gets trickier and trickier, right? So what we're recommending here is to utilize the most recent data table. So that'd be the February 2026 data table. And then a multiplier that gets put on top of that. How we determine what the multiplier is it was the total construction value that we saw last year divided by our budget number, right? So our budget number divided by the total construction cost. And that gives us 0.0063, which is about what we're already at, which was 0064. The big change is that we'll be using current numbers for valuation calculations. So in the packet, I just ran an example of what is currently under the 2012. A pretty standard 1,500 square foot home is $184,000 valued, right? I think we all know that's not reality today. Using the current building valuation data table, we get 318, which seems a lot more in line with what we would expect of that size of home. It does raise our fee a good chunk from around 1,200 to 2,000. I did run this same valuation through the calculations for every city in the metro, so you can see how we kind of compare. It puts us towards the high end of the metro, not the highest, but previously we were by far the lowest. So it kind of right sizes us with that. What I would plan to do going forward is around this time every year, bring you a new ordinance change to use the newest data table and use the newest multiplier based on our previous year's construction. So happy to answer questions.
That's from council.
Do we think this is a deterrent or not? like that big a jump or not?
I've talked to our inspectors and stuff, and we didn't really think that there was going to be too much pushback to it. It's kind of in line with everyone else. I don't know that that extra fee is really that detrimental to a $400,000 house in reality getting built. Now, of course, the flip side of it is if you're trying to make things more affordable, like that's going in the opposite direction of that. But with how we're trending with taxes and property tax legislation and everything, we want to make sure that we're able to still provide those inspection services and do things as evidenced by the issue last night. A lot of that was prevented because we had some building standards at the time that required a firewall. So, and we have better building standards now. And all of these fees go to make sure that we're addressing those issues at time of construction. So.
Question. If you think about the time it takes, Luke, versus this, versus a deck, versus a fence, versus a whatever, like, do we think we're priced appropriately for?
Yeah, so we do 11 inspections for every house. And that's not with, times where we get called out and something's not right and we go back. We average probably half an hour per each one of those. There's obviously all the equipment that we need, the training that we have to give our staff and all that stuff. So,
But like a deck is 3 visits, right? Or 2?
a deck
Footings
is 3 footings, framing, and then a final. So, yeah, if you average that out,
It'd be interesting to know like the cost per.
right? I've not ran that number. I think we're sitting at $180 for a deck fee right now. So,
So you say each trip takes an hour, it's $60 an hour.
right. But the flip side of that is there's different, needs for that, right? The footing inspection is it, how deep is it? And is there any material on the bottom, right? That's different than an electrical inspection where we're going around and looking at, every connection, every wire, every box,
As I
right?
prep for this, I just thought about like, is there a way to think about how much time it takes versus just our budget versus the cost?
Sure.
But I get it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's meant to represent our cost to do it, right?
Yep.
So.
Any public input? Any other discussion from council? I get a motion to approve the first reading.
Motion.
Okay, motion by Porter, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Galen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Porter? Yes. Borjohn?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Minneke?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8Q. Second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 177 rates and fees of the Norwalk Code, providing for amended fees for park and recreation volleyball programs. So Park and Rec's asking for amended fees for adult rec volleyball. Chris, anything to add?
No changes from.
All right, questions, comments from council or public comment? Okay, get a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Borjohn, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Caitlin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Borjohn?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Minneke? Porter? Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 8R is first reading of an ordinance amending and replacing in its entirety, chapter 92.12 of the Norwalk Code, providing for a water use plan. So Central Iowa Waterworks is renaming the water shortage plan to the water use plan. They've also made some adjustments to that plan. CIWW is asking all the member cities to standardize their response if we have to implement a water usage restrictions. And an ordinance that addresses the key components of the new plan. In fact, the Norwalk ordinance was a model for the regional approach. The new ordinance aligns Norwalk with the Central Iowa Waterworks region so that all cities are similar in our strategy for water emergencies. Luke or Wayne? Luke Nelson or Wayne?
Yeah, you summarized it well. The code is changing entirely, but what the residents see and what impacts them is not changing from last year. Like you said, the rest of the metro is aligning with how we did our practice.
Just if there's any questions.
Okay, questions, discussion, council.
It's slightly off topic, but maybe like the nitrate stuff that continues to be the filtration in the news, right? Like if we have to if they have to build a second system, what is our requirement there for pay or to? No,
Yeah, it'd be a pretty tall order to answer that question, just kind of shooting from the hip. Essentially, we're a member community like we are in a number of other regional partnerships. So what our share of usage of that future water, or collectively what our portion is in the system, we would pay that. I mean, we're a relatively small player among some of our partners, but still it's a large number.
somebody's on that committee or board, right?
2.some% of the total. But it would be a capital call, lack of better words, to
Yeah.
build something.
And that would be probably 3 to 5 years out,
But
right?
that- Yeah.
Central, Central Iowa Water Works did receive, there was an announcement last week, the governor announced a $25 million grant to Central Iowa Water Works to double the nitrate removal facility in 3 years.
That would be. That would be
Okay,
nice.
probably unrelated, but kind of on topic again, right?
Yeah. Other comments or discussion from council or any public input? Can I get a motion to approve the first reading? Motion by Borja, seconded by Porter. Caitlin, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Brown. Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Borjon.
All right, that motion carries. Item 8S is the discussion of possible action regarding a parking waiver for Dunn Industrial Condominium. So back on December 18th, you were asked to approve a parking waiver for the Dunn Industrial Condominiums. At that time, we were told that a basketball operation was going to use that facility, but that there were not going to be any basketball tournaments at that location and that they'd never use more than the 27 parking spaces at the site. My understanding is that the occupants have installed flooring and have put a few porta potties inside the building because there's no water at that location yet. And they've had a possible tournament at that location where lots of cars were in the area. And if you've ever been to the tournament, you'll understand this one. People park wherever they can put their car. I understand that the occupants have not been issued a certificate of occupancy at all, but decided to use the building anyway. And despite assuring council that there would be no tournaments there, it appears that they held a tournament. I know I'm being a bit grumpy, but it angers me that council was looked in the face and told that they'd stay within the 27 parking spaces. They turned around and did the opposite. I'd like to ask council to consider revoking the parking waiver that was approved on December the 18th. I would say that was my initial reaction anyway. Staff have informed me that the occupants have been responsive to directives to cease their activity until a certificate of occupancy is achieved. Even though I feel strongly that we need to uphold our regulations, perhaps the better approach is to ask council to temporarily pause the parking waiver until they actually receive a certificate of occupancy. Luke or Jim, what do you got?
Yeah, I can jump in, and Jim, feel free to jump in where you want. So we do kind of have two parallel issues going on. One, they were using the building without a certificate of occupancy. They do have the ability to have sewer and bathrooms in the building. They have not built it out. I think there was some miscommunication on when they could use it and stuff, because we do have a permit pulled for that stuff. So we're actively reviewing that. But we're not to a point where we can approve it and they can go do the work. So we did issue a do not occupy notice last week, and went ahead and told them, hey, you need to make sure you're doing things correctly. And they've since been working with us on that. They've not used the structure since. So, that's one very definitive issue that we know was a problem that we're working to correct. We were informed by a resident that there was some parking out there that was spilling out on Madison Street. I've talked with Shane Isley, who is the gentleman that runs the facility on the private side, as well as Jared Huseman, who's the owner of the building, just trying to figure out where they're at with things. My discussion with Shane was, he told me they did not hold tournaments. So he didn't know if there was excess parking that spilled out, but his representation to me was that there wasn't a tournament held. So I take him at his word for now. So I don't have any full proof that the parking spilled out on there that it was from the volleyball is what they're running out of there right now.
Did they say what it
Or
was, if they're saying it wasn't a tournament?
practices. So that's what they've
Could be a regular thing.
potentially, yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, we've got an issue. It's hard to, without having had our staff be there and document it. And really, when we see those things, we take pictures, we note times and stuff. I sent a text earlier to our fire marshal, like, what day do you think you heard about this? And he was like, well, the 20th or the 21st. Right. So I can't even put a date to it specifically. So, but what I can say is they have been responsive as we've worked with them on things, pausing a waiver until the certificate of occupancies issued seems like a wise move. I don't know that, that's not going to impact them, right? Because they shouldn't be using it anyway. So pausing a waiver, it can maybe sense, hey, we're serious about this stuff. But yeah, happy to answer any other questions on it, but that's as far as we've gotten on it.
So Luke, they shouldn't have been in the building, period.
Correct.
They should have had a temporary certificate, if anything.
Right, right.
They didn't even have that.
Yeah,
So they-
yeah, we really need to have bathroom facilities and a life safety plan in place for the facility from like a fire EMS standpoint. That's a critical piece that they are looking for. And then just, the health safety of having porta potties inside without ventilation's not great.
Remember when I was young and a young man, maybe even a middle-aged man, well, I got caught doing something I should have been doing. I straightened up pretty quick.
Sure.
So it's pretty easy to say.
Right, that's fair.
So
What's
I'll say young man. I
What's
won't go
recourse
middle-aged.
though? Like, is there fines if you occupy? Like, we issued them don't do that, but like,
Yeah.
You could fine them for violating that. We haven't done that. We posted it and basically stopped the ongoing business activity down there. That's what it is. I mean, it's a private business.
Yep.
So.
We waive striping, excuse me, go ahead.
And basically, the council does have authority to do what they want with this parking waiver. It was granted. Nothing's been done since the council granted the parking waiver. If the council wants to cancel it, they can. If they want to suspend it, they can. If they want to have planning and zoning refer back to them for further study, they can. As I'm not sure how many cars they have authorized down there. What would you say it was, Luke? How many parking spots are there?
There's 27 right now.
Okay.
The calculation I came up with was 32, but we approved 27.
Okay.
Occupancy was 120, what we said could be in there. So some of it's
Is it?
right. It's like at some point, like how is 120 people in a building at the same time really going to only be 27 parking stalls, right? Like,
Well, like
that's what the math
yeah,
comes.
like the pictures I've seen that they've got 4 volleyball courts down there. Orlando was down there. There's four full volleyball courts, and if they use it for practice only, and I've never had kids in volleyball, but I assume 15 kids per team. And if there's 14 down there practicing at the same time, that could give you an indication of how many kids are going to be there.
and they don't carpool, right?
Yeah. It depends on what your experience is with it, but you don't see that often. More often you see 2 parents meeting in separate cars down there to watch their kids practice. At least in the softball world that my daughter grew up in, but,
Are all parents watching practice though?
I don't know. I mean, that's information you guys would have to decide.
Overbearing ones do.
I have a pretty overbearing.
But even-
and she would not.
But even just to drop off, right? Like they all practice starts at what time, right? That's 80 cars, 90 cars of kids that are getting dropped off for practice at the same time.
And picked up
Yep.
if they overlap.
Yeah. And,
Memory might be fading, but I thought I know there's some parking, but there was some striping we said they didn't have to do too. Is that part of this or am I?
Difference.
when we were trying to figure out, could they do 5 more stalls? they said, well, there's spaces where they could stripe it. The south side of the building is all loading dock,
Yeah.
so they could go in and put some spaces there. Ultimately, we ended up approving the 27. I think thinking, if something did need to happen with striping, that could be a thing. There is ability to park on the street. We do have pedestrian facilities in the area, so, it overspilling out of the site doesn't concern me as much when it goes in an area that parking's expected, but there's just a lot of empty land out there. And as we saw with the field house, if things start getting out of control, then people just decide where the parking lot is, right? And is that in somebody else's property? Is that, tracking mud back onto the street? There becomes more issues. So, one or two cars or even 10 cars getting out onto Madison Street with there being a sidewalk there, not what I would think would be unexpected, right? But
as it builds out, or if there are, to the south of that is industrial,
right,
and it can have large trucks trying to go down in.
right, you do end up with some conflicts there depending on time of day with stuff. Yeah, potentially.
And okay, so looking back at the agenda statement from December 18th, a facility like that's going to be used for, let's see, it says state 19,000 square foot athletic club should require 101 parking spaces, right?
Correct.
Okay. So another option would be to modify the number of spaces that are required.
So I remember originally they told us it was like just a basketball team practicing. Yep. Like one basketball team.
And I think they said basketball. They didn't mention volleyball at the time.
I would imagine it'll be whatever court sport happens to be in season at the time, right?
I don't believe in coincidences, for the fact that they conducted business prior to being able to, and the parking's an issue. I think doesn't sit well with me.
What's realistic for the number of parking spots they could have?
On the current site, actually just ran a number. On the south side of the building, if they just stripe that all as parking, you could add 17 more spots, I believe. Or maybe I had that wrong.
And then 5 of those others, right? So-
Yeah, and some on the edge. Well, I did that math wrong.
I will just voice my opinion of, I take a lot of kids to sports over my years and nothing pisses me off more than there's not enough parking. Like these things, like they try to be cheap on the amount of parking that they have, and it's very frustrating. Like I drive by, I forget the name, the place on Grand, and they're expanding, and people are parking past DMAC all the way to like the Legacy, I don't even know what it's called, right? And now having to walk because they have huge events. Like to me, that's ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Spoke incorrectly. It's not 17, more like 30 could go there. 30 pull-in spots. I used the math for a parallel spot, so my apologies.
If the parking waiver was revoked, in theory, they could come back and request it again. Later.
But I think they were looking for the parking waiver in the beginning because, first of all, this was represented as an industrial building. And then they found a use where you could have sports located there. And, clearly, I think they probably came back for the parking waiver because they knew there weren't enough parking spots there for this type of facility. And probably before they could enter into a lease or, probably the lessee of the building probably wanted assurance that they could park before they decided to start their business down there. What I would guess. That's why they came ahead of time before we could actually see what was going on, because, once it starts and once we give occupancy permits and they're up and running, it's harder, not impossible, because there are the occupancy restrictions as far as the number of people on the inside.
And Luke, remind me on this property, unlike others, right? It's already all concreted. It would just be painting or striping, however.
Not to get to the full 101,
Right.
but there is extra space that you could identify some parking.
So at minimum would say you have to at least stripe it all to maximize the number of.
Right.
Was there any safety concerns with them being in there? Like for the kids, other than not having a toilet, I mean, or they had a normal toilet.
We haven't done
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's a not occupied building, so.
There's no certificate of occupancy there, so we have not conducted any of the fire or the life and safety review of that
Yeah.
building either.
I would say it's
So there could
very
be-
not
that could be an
appropriate for
issue.
people to be in that space.
I'm sorry.
It could be an issue.
Absolutely. There's no certificate of occupancy for them to be in there, which means they don't have the required facilities, which in this case are restrooms, nor has a life and safety review been completed for the fire site either.
We don't know if they have working items or whether they have fire extinguishers or.
Right, correct. Sprinklers, yeah. We have not done a review of any of that. It was done as a shell building, but not for this use.
And
That's
we-
my problem. It's not a coincidence that they went against this risk, safety and also we're overflowing on parking. That's two strikes.
I tried to figure out what the greater sin was, but I think the greater sin is they let kids in that building that haven't got the stamp of approval.
Right.
Parking's another issue, but, so I'm for not, whatever, they don't go in it till they're ready to go.
But I think the question today though in front of the council is, because it's already posted, they can't go in.
Right, yeah.
That's controlled. Already, in the process and they're following that process. Your question is, the only thing the council has committed to at this point in time is there was a waiver of the parking. And I think the mayor wanted.
Waiver doesn't make any sense.
You know, that's why the mayor wanted to get it back in front, because I mean, the first opportunity that
Not
there
now.
was.
Yeah, now that we know
Clearly-
the uses, then it's not an acceptable waiver for the use, right? Is how I feel. There's courts in there, right? They're installed, right? So
That's what my whole point was this a one-time shindig or is this a regular thing? Seems like if this is just a practice, this is probably a regular thing. So this is gonna keep being an issue.
I would have almost
need
rather
to
had them
take
tell me
away
it
from-
was a tournament. Right?
That's what I'm
Well,
saying.
Stop, to your point, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Or this was like a celebration, a pre-celebration that they like didn't realize they weren't. supposed to
Right,
be
a
there
one
yet.
time.
Like a ribbon cutting.
Sure. I did speak with, like I mentioned, I spoke with both of them. Both of them wanted to attend tonight, but they just had things going on. So they're not here to give you their input, but it's not for their lack of desire to. But there was just a short turnaround with some of that stuff. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that.
One thing I just want to reinforce what Luke Paris had said earlier. Usually in these kind of situations, we want staff to have a set of eyes on what is actually occurring. I want to reinforce, we don't have that in this situation. So there's hearsay is the right word, a rumor. There's a general idea that it was occupied and there was that much traffic.
We know it was occupied. The parking thing, I can't.
Jim also knows that there's, correct me if I'm wrong, you know that there's 4 volleyball courts installed. Right?
Yeah.
And so,
I just sent you an email with a picture. If I want to see what it looks like. on the
Okay.
side.
and to your point, I don't know how many people are on a volleyball team. I've been, like, let's even say there's 6 playing at a time, 6 times 2 teams times 4. That's a lot of people, right? And so I agree, like we should.
And which is different than, I would say that's a lot different than basketball, where you have 5-on-5, but you only have 4 courts there.
Well, 4 volleyball courts does not equal
Yeah.
4 basketball courts.
Yep.
So if it's basketball, you get maybe 2.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I had read that wrong.
Why I feel like
Oh, yeah,
almost
there's 2
trickery.
2 full and 1 half.
Here's a picture of it right there.
How do we move forward as we
You know,
make a motion?
I think what we could do is, if you wanted to revoke it, you could revoke it. I would say with direction to go to P and Z for further study.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I don't think we want to foreclose the idea that they can do it. I think, But, you know, P and Z made the initial recommendation. What our code says is that the council can give an accommodation or deviation from the standard parking with P and Z input. So you know, you think you've received enough new information that kind of changes the story a little bit. I think you could revoke it with direction that it goes to P and Z for further study and further recommendation of you all what to do.
Right. And I think on where I'm viewing things with not having our staff be able to verify some of that, you know, I don't love the fact that they weren't able to be here tonight. I think people should have the right to come and talk their side of things. So, you know, if we let them do that at P and Z and then bring it back to you all, and we can kind of have a reevaluation of everything, I feel like that could be a good process.
Is there a timetable from them to reoccupy and for that to be done?
I don't think with where we're at with everything and how long it'll take them to build it out, I believe we can have it at P and Z and back to you prior to that. And if we can't, we'll just not issue a certificate of occupancy until we can do that.
I just feel like if we can figure it out the right way, like I want them to do it, right? But it needs to follow its proper course. It's gonna take a while to get an occupancy with it, then yes, let's have them do that route. Right?
I don't think they started any construction down there for improvements. So-
No, we've not even approved the
Yeah,
permit, so we're still
I
active.
think they gotta go
in
build the bathrooms and.
But we're like,
Believe fire still needs to review the life safety plan, so.
So what's the motion then? Is it to revoke and refer it back to P and Z?
Yeah.
Or is it just to refer it back to P and Z for a modification? I personally like.
Vote the waiver, send it back to you.
Second.
And that'll be in a resolution format, so we will. We'll fill in that paragraph and have it ready for you.
Okay. So the motion I got from Jason is to revoke and refer back to P and Z. I got a second from Porter. Any further discussion? Kalen, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Porter. Yes. Forjon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item number 9 is future agenda items. Purpose of this is for council to give direction to staff by way of motion to have items placed on the future agendas. It's not for discussion of the merits of the subject matter. It's to get it on the agenda so that we can. Any future agenda items for tonight? I think as far as the Sunset Fest goes, Carissa's working on that, and we'll probably bring it at a future agenda or future meeting.
I anticipate they'll probably submit their special event application. That'll be the next step you'll see.
so like is it
Krista, do you have, sorry, do you have a sense of what they're actually requesting from the city?
We met today to talk about that, and I think we still need to discuss a little bit more in detail. I think as she mentioned, they are probably going to request some fee waivers, but we don't know the scope of what that'll be because of the events with the fire overnight. Fire and police weren't able to attend the meeting today, so we've got some catching up to do.
Do you know, are they like all encompassing that they want like a liquor license and be able to do all of that?
We also had, so because it's in the Greg Young Sports Complex, we had a representative from Sportsplex USA there as well. So there'll be some concession discussions to happen as well. So it'll be a broad scope discussion. There's a lot of moving parts and we're not very far in the process yet.
And this would be the first time we've ever done anything like this, right?
Yes, yeah, this would be the first event.
At a high level, it seems super fun and exciting. And then you have to figure out how to make it happen.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It's a quick turnaround too.
Yes.
And, I recognize that it's like you want to be, oh, yay, great, this is awesome, thank you, we love it. And we have to figure out the nuts and bolts of it. And we have to pay for those nuts and bolts.
Right.
And we're paying for those nuts and bolts under a current tax regime that is saying to us, don't pay for that stuff anymore, is what it feels like.
Yeah. I
So
think-
it's
yeah.
like you want to be positive and you want to like, but I understand the work that's involved.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You are
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so item number 10 is council inquiries staff dates. this is a portion of the meeting that is much less formal. You can hear some back and forth banter, general joking around. We believe that this can build camaraderie and cohesiveness between staff and council. So we'll start with Luke.
Well, first, Jason, very well said. I think I could have summarized that property tax reform or just the general sense that we get as local government, get smaller, so it's hard to expand and do more things when you've got that pressure.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that. And speaking of that, really the two main things I'm gonna bring up are one property tax and one other bill that I believe is gonna impact Norwalk. The property tax reform, number one, I will tell you that I'm happy that they signed the bill or that they approved that bill, partly because finally we can get past wondering what they're gonna do and now we know what it is. Two things within the property tax reform bill, which is Senate File 2472. There's a 2% cap on new revenue coming into the city. Although the positive there is that it exempts new growth. The physical new construction coming out of the ground is not under that 2% cap, which means for Norwalk, that is extremely positive. The downside is that a lot of the new commercial and industrial growth we see is a result of the investments the city makes through our use of TIF financing. But under this property tax bill, utilizing TIF financing means we can't enjoy the appreciation of that new growth. It is held under the 2% cap. So we're still learning a lot more about that property tax bill. And Jean and I, as we work with the League of Cities, they've been working on some financial models and we will have more information to come. What could be equally concerning, there was the approval of a SUDAS bill. And as you know, we recently established some new regulations that required subgrade and subdrain underneath our pavement of streets in new residential developments. And our early assessment of the SUDAS bill is that those added requirements above and beyond the SUDAS base requirements is that it would then become the taxpayer's responsibility to pay those added requirements. That just means that if you remember, we're phasing in, we said for, I think it was 1.5 miles per year, we would cover 75% of that difference and then gradually phase that out. If our review of this bill is accurate, it means that it wouldn't be a phase in, but instead we would have to cover the difference in those requirements. So likely the end result there might be a city saying, well, now we don't have the additional revenue to pay for that. So that 3-mile street you wanted to add, you're gonna have to wait a few years before we can save up some money to pay our portion. So two things that could have some pretty significant impact on growth of not just Norwalk, because I certainly think we're not alone in those requirements. But two things that could really impact the growth for our community and the whole metro. So we'll learn more. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I certainly think there's a lot of positives in that property tax reform for Norwalk. More to come. That's all.
Thank you. George. Andy?
Two things I've been working on or that I'm interested in working with city on. AI, we talked about it the other day, how we can help the staff become more efficient, leveraging AI, maybe best practices, training, et cetera. So I think that's super interesting. And then I've been talking with Holly and Elliot a little bit about an idea of like an indoor market. I've been to a few of these. I think they're super interesting. Elliot has been to one. I can't remember if it was in Michigan. And they're like these outdoor shops that are very small, but add to walkability inside of city central. How do you get like new businesses, startup costs to be lower? How do we have kind of more anchor in city central area? So just something that we continue to research. I think Holly's talking to some development folks about their interest because I think this was brought up in the past as well too. Kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Lindsay?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, Kaylin. Jean?
Just a reminder that summer's coming and hot off the press is the library's activity schedule. It's 8 pages, so we hope you can make it to some of our events. The summer kickoff is June 6th, and it is a really good time to meet some people, have a good time. So come on over.
Thanks, Carissa.
I would echo similar sentiment. Our playbook for summer programs just released, and many of our programs that are opening for summer just opened on Monday. We did add a river cruise on the Celebration Bell in Moline, Iowa, and that's for 18+. So if you'd like to sign up and join us, we'll be going on August 5th. Pretty excited. We opened registration Monday and we're half full for our charter bus already. So
Thank you. Jean,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Major?
Button fire, we had 2 officers that had some smoke inhalation. They've engaged company nurse. Just be safe, but I think they're gonna be fine. Shout out to the fire department and Chief Porter and her staff on the professionalism that they exhibited and the just, I don't think the average person knows it's more than just putting out the fire. They're overhauling and they're on the scene for 12, 14 hours and covered in insulation and soot and water and trying to wrangle cats. We're trying to help do that too. So one got a little out of control and jumped from the officer's hands, and so that's okay. But shout out to them. I was very impressed with their quick response and the ability to put it out and do what they had to do. Yeah, but the other stuff that gets missed is I wanted to point out to them. So
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Tony?
Just a quick update on our Norwalk Central Water Tower. So if you've been down on the end of Chatham, close to the end of Chatham or East 18th Street over the last several weeks, it's probably seen a lot of construction activity down there, a lot of equipment, a lot of concrete trucks, but you can't really see anything yet. And that's because of the massive foundation that goes to support water towers. So the contract was actually making great progress. Right now they're forming, if you want to go down there, I'd say be careful and stay away from it, but it's really interesting right now because they're forming the massive foundation, pile cap foundation for that water tower. And it's really interesting to see. I've taken some pictures of it too, and I have our inspector out there taking a lot of pictures of the whole process. They're planning on pouring that next Tuesday. That's about 350 cubic yards of concrete.
Wow.
You know, that's like about 3 city blocks of streets. So it goes into that massive foundation cap on top of the auger cast pile of 72, 50 some feet deep concrete, 16-inch diameter concrete piles that go down in 10 feet into bedrock that helps provide a bearing capacity for this tower as well. So that foundation gets poured next week, and then within the next couple of weeks after that, we're going to start seeing the column walls go up 4 feet at a time. Use these gang forms, possibly do 2 pours in a day. It's about 130 feet. It's got to go up. So we're going to start seeing it come out of the ground here in the next several weeks, which is exciting.
All right. Thank you. Speaking of cats, they found another one. So that's where Chief Porter has gone, just to go wrangle a cat.
Pictures of what it's going to look like when it's done. Are we gonna do something fun and make it?
We could still do that. So we do have, there is some renderings of what it's going to look like with our logo and everything. There's 2 types of lighting in there. There's some lighting, there's going to be LED lighting that lights the pedestal of the tower, as well as some LED lighting that's out further that will light the bowl to show our logo and everything. So there's painting schemes, and you're certainly welcome to look at that. But you know, we do have the option to change that at this point. But we've got a generally idea what it's going to look like.
Good. I will say one of the comments that Chief made at the site when I was down there. They have been practicing incident command. The whole NIMS process for incident command. ICS.
yes.
She said that and along with our C4 group was some tabletop exercises that as they were down there, they had the person that was going to be incident command had been in the building helping with the evacuation, but he consciously extracted himself out, which is what he's supposed to do, and to become incident commander. That the system worked really well. So it's good to see in practice what's going on and hear that it does work really well. And that whole incident command system can be, it's not only for fire, it's for just about anything that you need to do with it. It can be picked up and moved wherever you need to go. And it should work. So it's neat to hear that what they've been practicing has actually been put into practice and used and successful. So with the, Wayne, is there anything that you'd like to highlight from the fiscal year 26 winter operation costs?
Yes, if you haven't had a chance to read it, we responded to 7 events. Everything came in within budget. It was a lighter year, not as many events, so everything worked well. No significant issues. Our payment from the DOT for Highway 28 covered the cost to provide service for Highway 28, so that annual agreement we just executed, everything's fine there. The only other thing I had was next week is curbside cleanup and the drop-off event at Public Works. So if you have anything you want to get rid of, now's the time.
Okay.
That's it.
So the curbside cleanup is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Monday for west of the highway, Wednesday east of the highway.
Okay. And then that following Saturday is the drop-off event.
Correct.
That's the 16th.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. Carrie.
Just the speaker from Metro Waste, bringing up the story about, the staff member that, performed CPR. Just made me think just to share that, obviously our, police officers and firefighters, they're all obviously, CPR certified. I know recently, our fire department, did certification training out at Public Works as well. So I think all of their staff are, and then, we have later this month, Lieutenant Lancaster is holding a session for other employees. So just kind of heads up that we are on top of that kind of thing as well.
Thank you. Luke?
Yeah, appreciate you mentioning the firewall earlier. Believe it or not, we get contractors that don't think they should do sprinklers and firewalls and stuff. So I hope they drive by that and see the importance of those things. Efficiency stuff, we had a meeting today about new GIS mapping agreement. We're looking at moving a lot of our GIS stuff to the cloud, which is a $700 cost to us, but saving IT substantial amounts in server costs. We're getting rid of 2 servers, so that's awesome. We looked at a development today in the 2 Mile area. I happen to be doing some other unrelated stuff to that about the 2 Mile area outside Norwalk. And just an interesting thing, there are 2,000 people that live within 2 miles of Norwalk, but not in Norwalk and not in another city. So it's bigger than Cumming. So basically south of town, 2 miles, we've got approximately 2,000 people. So it's a pretty substantial group of homes that are outside of there, even though a lot of folks think it's out in the county. We're trying to get a BOA appeal meeting set up for the Fairway building and some work we've been doing on there. Unfortunately, we've got 2 members that are part of the company that was contracting it, so it's making it very challenging to get that done. But if you've heard about that appeal, we're working to get it done at a time that works for everybody. We had 13 residential permits this month, 59 total for the year. We've had 149 total permits of all types this month and 532 for the year. Ooh, he got my map.
I had to show that. That's,
Yes.
it says a lot by seeing the image of it.
So all those pink areas would be residences outside of town. A lot. It's 19% of the ground within 2 miles is consumed by residential units.
A lot of sprawl.
Yep.
Jason?
Villages in Norwalk continues to get a warm response, so I just thought I would announce that. And also just, you know, whatever ideas, thoughts, even issues anybody has, would love to hear them. So all ears on that. Continue to work with Holly on next steps. And yeah, so it's been fun to get the response, and still very much theoretical. Yeah, and that, you're right, you gotta get it on the water tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took notes because this is not my expertise whatsoever, but, the wastewater reclamation authority, we've got some good news. So the like stuff, for lack of a better term, that comes out of the wastewater, is almost like this like soot material looking stuff. And they've got this like huge multiple football fields long that Luke and I actually got to see on our tour. Anyways, it's made up of like phosphorus and magnesium and a bunch of other stuff. And, it's good fertilizer. So they're like starting to figure out a way to like, I guess more efficiently harvest it and then sell it to make money for the WRA, which is cool. Yeah, and it's actually the equivalent of, so developing this extraction process has a cost, but considering the value the WRA can save, then in return would be approximately $53 million over the next 20 years. Yeah, it's a big deal.
So. Just as a thought, have they thought about taking that or contacting Metro Waste? Because they do the compost and know how to bag it. Maybe they have some facilities or some ideas on how to
Partner and.
get that done.
What the process is. Yeah. Well, it's Struvite, by the way. Struvite. Yep, I've been trying to memorize that word and I just keep calling it stuff. So,
Okay.
that's a good point. I'll ask around.
Jim.
Just recognizing police and fire. The number of years I've been here, it's just really impressive when you see something like this happen. And the mechanisms that set up everything from the communication with other jurisdictions, the way that they responded quickly and helped, knowing that we respond quickly like that when other jurisdictions need help, and just the training. You know, we sit here and listen to an abstract and budget for it, and I sit through meetings and they talk about this and that and things that never occur, and suddenly it does occur, and it's impressive.
Only thing I have, Andy, I appreciate your questions, like the question that you had with the, with the development down at Dunn, and what happens if it changed to, what do we do with the required parking spaces? I like those. Those are great questions. It not only answers your question, it helps stuff's going on too. So that's all I had. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Brown, seconded by Porter. All those in favor say aye. We adjourn at 8:08 p.m. Thank you.